So I was somewhat amused by the feminist photographer because, okay, yes, I'm definitely a feminist. Definitely claim the word dyke and all that good stuff. Second wave taught, I guess is the way to put that. For me, it is research and an occasional project that hits it on the nose. Those projects, when I look at them, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I really love Sally Mann and Catherine Opie. And I've had the honor of geeking out with Kath, telling Opie about why their work meant so much to me when I was in college. And it was a really, really cute moment in lockdown, thanks to the Brooklyn Rails chats that they were doing that helped everybody stay sane a little bit. And so I'm guessing the series of mine that you found, there wasn't the obsession with siestas and landscapes and fun objects, I guess, is definitely very inspired by Opie's work without having like thought about it. Because for me, photography is so buried underneath in researching and thinking about the art world. And I'm happy with the series. It's doing really well for me. It's surprising what one photograph can do in terms of the number of shows. It makes me really happy and proud of it for that. And but the project isn't about the photography in firsthand. It's the photography is third. Feminist is definitely first in that. And I'm guessing you found my Buzz series. And it started with, I am sick of the patriarchy calling me beautiful because of my hair. Let's make that just stop and get control over that stereotype a little bit. And so I did, and been doing it for, God, okay, 12 years now. Let it grow a little bit a couple times, but I prefer the buzz and I love it as a project. I use the hair as a material more than a year ago because time flies. Last time they was properly in a good show was a portraiture series at ARC in Chicago, which is one of two eldest feminist galleries in the country that are still up and running. First is Air in New York, that beat out ARC by a few months, and they're really they're kind to each other. It makes me happy. But ARC wants the solo show, so I just have to finish making more pieces and do some more photos that will be done by will be staged by a photographer talking with me and not just me having my ex take one more photo that's finally the right photo.
It's kind of hard to define feminist photography because sometimes it's not really intended to be feminist. So we were wondering, what would you define as feminist photography? And then how do you embed your feminist values into your photographic work, which you kind of talked about? But is it intentional, not intentional? Is it kind of just there and you don't think of it as feminist and then it becomes that? How would you define it in the photography space to you?
Mm. I would start that by saying that because when a project needs it, you know how people do their hashtags about themselves, right? My top five, I would feminist would be in that, as would sculptor, as would I will always be a Cali girl and I can't get away from that as an influence on my aesthetic. But feminism is always there in my work. I'm always being aware of my status as a petite woman and a lesbian when I have worked for some guys who are definitely misogynist, not diverse people. Got away from that as I could, and other experiences with that in my life. But it's not always obvious. Like, I do a lot of temporary public art projects that are multi generational and meant to engage kids and get them thinking off the page. And it works really well. But I mean, like, that's based in domestic space, in claiming space, in learning materials, and in sports as a universal game. Like, very few universal games exist, and sports is one of them. And I thoroughly love that fascinating little spot in childhood development and public engagement. In how I do my installation work, I recreate domestic spaces because essentially, as a child, I was one of the kids in a really heinous divorce custody battle for decades. So my mother and I moved a lot, and that's part of how she copes and flipped houses and paid for the attorneys and all that. So my installation work is really rooted in that home space and a connection with being safe with my mother somewhere. She has a hard time accepting that because it's heavy and she just wants to be over it all now. And as someone who was, contemporary with second wave feminism, but she went to the Levins and the protests and not enough art shows because she already had a business and a young child. So some of that history she doesn't even know, and I get to tell her about it, and it's cool. Like, no, mom, really, Judy Chicago likes me now. You're welcome, which is really awesome. Also being recognized by Judy Chicago. Thank you, Buzzcut. Just it made my year. It really did. And I brought her cookies last time at her show at the new museum because I do that too because I like sharing and reminding people what it's like just to do acts of kindness that start from a domestic space, but really it's so even the cookies are part of my practice. Bring them to shows all the time, and if I don't have time to make them, I am sad. As photography is my research more so than endpoint of a project. I have exhibited photo projects before, but it's not a massive push for me. It depends on what the call is. Back when I was in Pittsburgh, there was a gallery that loved my photography, like hardcore. I'm like, well, that's great. So, what would that mean to me and how I'm dealing with everything? That I got more solo shows in photography than anything else. I couldn't resolve that, and so I didn't, and haven't at least. I've always loved it, and I know how to do basic stuff with my DSLR. And the National Geographic had this photo project for a little while called Your Shot, and you signed up to go do a walk around with the Nat Geo photographer, seeing how people took photos in different ways who were less than amateur versus the Nat Geo photographer, and how she saw that no, really, I'm trying to get a better shot and willing to contort and lay on the ground and basically gave me a kudos for that for having that eye, even though photography again isn't something that I put on the pins in my jacket, so to speak, so much. But yeah, photography is incredibly important because we're in a visual world, and instant captures matter, and even planned ones matter. I like photography because you don't have to necessarily have an artist statement so much or too much context for it to be read. I appreciate it for that. And I did actually buy a domain for my photography just on itself because people keep looking at my website and glomming onto my photos because I have a lot of them. I do a lot of travel writing, and thus I have a lot of travel photos because then I could market them in that easy internet shop way a little bit better. So photography is different sort of avenue in the art world, I think, at least in terms of audience. The photographer or feminist photographer might, but yes, even when I'm curating, it's with a feminist angle, but it's not always as intense as the Ani DeFranco shirt that I'm wearing right now, and you can't see it because I have a standing desk, and I'm kind of sad.
I guess if I had to ask, I know you
Yeah,
mentioned some photographers that you enjoy and are inspired by, but just what are specific works that may stick with you in certain ways or techniques or more people?
more photographers. All right, I have a friend that is a Japanese American photographer, Henry Haneda. He is amazing as a photographer and a designer and a human being. I really wish I were home more so that I could take him up on some offers of going and splunking around Mount Rainier together. So his eye and his finesse definitely been an inspiration for me. And he's very natural world, heightened details, almost puts Adams to shame, but not quite. Different style, but like, yeah, no, I put them on the same tier. In terms of Opie's work, it was definitely in the early to mid 90s, there was a photo series Opie was doing in grad school. And it was this amazing brocade backdrop, right? Nodding to antiquity with portraiture, right? Never in photography so much, but like, way back when, brocade backdrops. But it was the photographs were the back of someone's head. So no identifying features besides like here up. And this was after and at the same time as the skin carving stuff, which makes me go a little bit, but they're fabulous. So this one photograph was a woman with a buzz cut facing the wall and had Dyke tattooed on the back of her neck in big Gothic fonts. And as a 20-year-old artist, that damn thing changed my world. Like, yes, okay, that is my word. That is bold and everything. That one photograph. So there's that. And then it helped me come out of the closet. It helped me do so many more things in my work going forward because I was so horribly surrealistly realist academic in my art to that moment. Like my work was fine. I was learning, but that one piece flipped everything around for me. And so the awareness of certain words no longer being PC, but that PCness is ignoring what the word means. I'm like, no, it's okay. Yes, I have a power Dyke suit. It cost me $300 on sale. I love it. I have more suits, but they're just suits. But Dyke is a French word to mean to dress up and intentionality. And that is in everything I do, not just how I pick a wardrobe. Let's see, curating. Well, it's not so much curating at the moment, it's what I choose to write about. For example, there's a Native American artist out of New Mexico. Her name is Rose Simpson. And work is figurative, native, very simplified washes of glaze. And, arrows. And my mother is awake too early. Sorry for those beeps. If you heard them, my mom's on the West Coast. And I'm really inspired by her work. And I'm actually applying to the Warhol Arts Writers Grant. At the moment, I'm hoping to get to focus and write more about her work a little bit in the near future. But she's represented by Jessica Silverman Gallery. I remembered, along with Judy Chicago. And I really like how they curate themselves because it's a very layered, integrated, connected look at what the artists are doing and how they're using materials and being feminist and Native American, which I also am Native. But I like that. I want to curate more of that. I want to know more of those artists. Look at their practice in a multicultural, multi-narrative way.